Evening. We're going to call this 82nd regular session of the Mayor and Council to order. First, we'll have the invocation followed by the pledge to the flag. Please stand as you are able. We gather here today intent on doing good work. We seek to represent fairly and well those who have given us this task. May our efforts be blessed with insight, guided by understanding and wisdom. We seek to serve with respect for all. May our personal faiths give us strength to act honestly and well in all matters before us. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Just a few announcements. We are operating under the rules of procedure adopted September 24th, 2013. Use of cell phones during meetings is restricted. All correspondence for distribution to elected officials should be provided to the city clerk and should include a copy for the city clerk for inclusion in the official record. Just to review our meeting schedule for January, we have a work session at 4 o'clock on Tuesday the 5th. We have an executive session at 3:30. Followed by a 4 p.m. work session on Tuesday, January 12th. We have a work session at 4 p.m. on Tuesday the 19th, and our regular session is on Tuesday, January 26th at 7 p.m. At this point, we will have citizen comments. Thank you. Aha, thank you. Distributed, thank you. I'm just going to go in the order that folks signed up. I do want to remind folks that citizen comments are limited to 5 minutes per individual. Meetings are televised and recorded. Your comments will be on air and on tape and now live on YouTube. The first person to sign up is Ms. Dot Klein. Ms. Klein?
First of all, I'd like to congratulate you, Mayor, on what you have been accomplishing and waking up this sleepy little town. It seems like you're the first mayor that we've really got to do more things. I was here for the work session this past Tuesday, and I couldn't hear. I couldn't hear anything that you all were saying. And I have a hearing aid. So my first concern is to be able to come to the council meetings and be able to hear. Just last week, you cut a ribbon on a new business, and this business installed the loop system in the Maryland Theater. I was wondering if you have asked them for an estimate on a loop system here in the council room, or for guidance, because there is an ADA requirement that I should be able to hear what you all are saying. I'm just going to briefly mention some things that I'm going to work on. First of all, the park circle. I don't like what you've done out there, and a lot of other people think it's too confusing. When I left Tuesday and I was signing out, I looked over and saw the television, and so I sat down and I could listen and watch what was going on. You mentioned the park. The park does need benches and picnic tables. The bench over by City Park Drive has been there for as long as I can remember. And in the summertime, you can't use it because it's crawling with bugs. You're talking about a pavilion being put up by the caboose. I really don't think we need a pavilion right now. I think you raised our taxes, and I hope that wasn't just to put a pavilion in. You're talking about paddle boats on the lake, and I'm afraid that's going to be over my dead body. If I wanted to see commercial, when Joy Snyder left here and gave me the Digby building to sell, she said, see what you can do with it. I had people interested in that building that had handicapped people. They would make it a home for the handicapped. Also, there were 3 young men who were interested in putting a restaurant overlooking the lake. But I kept working on the city, and until I got the help of Senator Munson, I wasn't able to do anything. But after he began to help, we were able to get the city to buy the Digby building and put it to very good use. I think we have a lot of parks in this town. I went by Woodland Way yesterday, and they were repairing the sidewalks that go into the tennis court that's not used very often. You have a big old playground behind the old Woodland Way School, which says Washington County.
Yeah, that's a county park.
And then there's a park at the end of Bellevue Avenue, which I'm sure the neighbors at Bellevue don't like because there's been a lot of trouble back there. I think we city taxpayers provide people with the fairground and the golf course. So I sometimes wonder why I pay city and county taxes. What do I get for my county taxes? Also, putting a building on the city parking lot is a no-no. We need that parking lot so that when other buildings around the square are renovated, we still have that parking. The other night when I went through that parking lot, there was a young man in a pickup truck dropping off his daughter for dance lessons. And I honked the horn, and he rolled his window down, and I said, "What are you going to do when they put this building up here?" He said, "What building?" I said, "Don't you know that the city wants to have a developer put up a new building here?" I said, "How are you going to get your little girl into the dancing lessons? Is she going to have to go down between the buildings? Will that be enough room? Will you sit there and watch her?" Well, he didn't know that you all want to put a new building on the city parking lot. And a lot of other people that I've asked, they don't know it either. So I guess maybe they don't buy the newspaper. Now, the big problem that you and the newspaper have finally put in writing is the poor, the homeless, and the underprivileged. My feelings are that REACH needs to be a 24-hour facility, and we need a community center for these people to learn. Am I talking too loud? Too loud? There's one on North Avenue that was on in the paper for veterans to use, but I think with all the people that are downtown, we need to have something down here. And then I think you need to take buildings 1 block east, west, south, and north of the square and start renovating them before you start on a trail to the city park. I think you can walk down Summit Avenue to the city park and you have a much more pleasant scenery. Until City Center is up and running, I think we should forget about the trail. I am for the educational hub downtown for the students in our community because the success of the Barbara Ingram School means that we should go ahead. And I think we should combine forces and go to the county commissioners. Several weeks ago, I invested in the downtown. I have a small business which I transferred to the Kendall Taylor home across the street. I specialize in vintage clothing, hats, and contemporary clothing and antiques. So that means I'm going to be involved downtown. I want to know what you are doing and how you are doing it. And I think we older citizens of Hagerstown need a hearing system to be able to participate more. The city council chambers, the library meeting room, the county commissioners meeting room, the museum, and the Board of Education. And I shall be approaching these people to see what they can do about their hearing systems. When I go to the Maryland Theater now, I can hear when people are laughing. I never knew what they were laughing about, but now I can hear and I know what they're laughing about, and the music is a lot better. But the hearing, I have asked several council members and haven't gotten really what I wanted to hear. So I do hope that you will look into providing good hearing here in the council room. Thank you.
Thank you, Dot. The next person signed up to speak.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
could I just comment?
Briefly, please.
With regard to the hearing, can you hear me, Dot?
I just heard that.
With regard to the hearing, you had come to me, and we had talked about this some time ago. When that happened, I raised it as an issue. And one of our staff people that's here tonight got an estimate of what it would cost to run a loop in this room. And that estimate was $50,000. Unfortunately, we do not have $50,000. We just simply don't have it. So our IT specialists who work in this building are searching for an alternative, maybe using Wi-Fi or something in place of a loop. There is a lot of interest in getting this done, and it will be done. We don't know exactly how long because of the complication of the $50,000, but it will be done because you're right. We have the responsibility for you to hear what's going on. I want to let you know that the mayor and the whole city council supports getting this room to the point where anybody in it can hear what's going on.
Thank you. Ms. Vicki Smith?
I'm here to discuss with you about the current situation on Burhands Boulevard with all the people that are jaywalking between Goodwill and the little shopping center that is there. I travel that road anywhere from 2 to 6 times each weekday. So therefore, there's hardly ever a time that I'm on that road that someone doesn't cross in front of me. But last week, I had 2 incidences happen that I wanted to bring to your attention because the situation is just getting deplorable. I was on Burhands Boulevard traveling north. I was stopped at the red light on West Franklin Street. And as I'm sitting there, I am observing a female and 2 males cross the street from where George Street is in front of all that traffic that was there, and they stopped right in the middle of the street where the yellow lines are. And I'm sitting there thinking, why aren't they crossing the street? Because at that time, there were no vehicles traveling north in that section. And no cars were turning from West Franklin Street, making a right-hand turn onto Burhands Boulevard. I mean, they certainly had a clear enough way to get across. I'm thinking all this, and then all of a sudden the light changes green, so I proceed to go north. And when I do, the woman very slowly crosses the street. The 2 males follow behind her, one after another, not in a group, but one after another. And they cross, I mean, not in normal walking pace, but very, very slowly. And by the time I got up to them, the guy stands there and laughs at me. And I told him, I said, "You can walk faster." And he just thought it was so funny because he did not want to. Well, in other words, he was impeding traffic. The second situation occurred like a day later, and I'm also going north on Burhands, and I have the green light there at Salem Avenue, so I'm not thinking anything except, proceeding north. And as I do, all of a sudden, out of my side view of my vision, I see this young man come running across the street, again, over from where Goodwill is, and he's running, and I'm thinking, he's going to run into my car, into the side of my car. What am I going to do? But he didn't, thankfully, hit my car. He ran behind my car and impeded the vehicle that was behind me. So there's two situations that that was very unusual besides the people just normally walking across the street. I have also observed that there are quite a few people that are employed at Goodwill, because I see them with their aprons on, crossing from Goodwill over to Little Caesar's Pizza or to Byers Shopping Center. And the one girl one day, she puts her hand out like this, expecting me to stop when I have a green light to let her pass. The situation has just gotten out of hand. I think that there needs to be some kind of maybe a 4-foot-high barrier put down Burhands Boulevard, or, some kind of barrier on the sidewalks to keep them from crossing that street. But something needs to be done. I know that there have been accidents there. I know there was a little boy that got hit, and I think he broke his leg or something. Things are happening, and it's just like they don't care. And it's like when we have to wear helmets when we have our motorcycle riders, when we wear seat belts in our cars, we do all this to protect those people who just don't have any common sense. And I think this is a situation where we need to do something to protect these people who don't have any common sense.
Thank you for bringing that issue forward. I know our acting chief is back there, and I think he was taking some notes, so I appreciate you bringing that to our attention.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'm going to apologize. I had to step out for a moment, but I agree with you. I knew what you were going to address, and just the other day, it's a historic problem there, people crossing that road. But I think we should ask for a report on possible solutions or possible ways of dealing with it, because you drive down there and you see somebody about to step out into the middle of traffic all the time. So you're dead right.
Every day, there's somebody crossing the street in front of us.
Well, making sure that there are adequate crosswalks at the appropriate locations, I think, is an important part of this. Looking
I
at
have
this.
another comment I could make.
Go ahead.
I have seen people stand at the corner there where the walk lights are, and rather than cross the corner, they go down to George Street and then cross over into the little into the little shopping center.
Yeah.
Now, does that make sense?
No, but
Well-
they're the ones that are at fault, but we as the ones driving the vehicles would get it because the pedestrian has the right of way, which is,
Well,
But I was
only in
gonna say,
designated
we do
areas.
have the walk, and that is
Right.
up on Salem and Burhands.
Right.
And I don't know, Vicki, is there one down there also on Franklin?
There
in
is.
Burhands?
There are
Okay,
walk
and
lights down
again,
there.
it's a matter of, if you do it for a week and say, okay, this isn't going to happen, acting chief, I think that would be one deterrent, but believe me, Byers Stop and Go and Caesars is going to be the tell-all of tell-all, and that's exactly why they use that.
I don't know if it would help to maybe make them put barriers up along their sidewalks, or, to keep them from, because they cross onto the sidewalk and go down that little dirt hill
Right.
where they have all that
Right.
shrubbery and
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is a solution. To me, I think the solution would be to put it down Burhands Boulevard, simply because there's a sign there that says no left turn into shopping center. They still do it. I've seen people go down in their cars. When there's no cars coming up to make the turn onto Salem Avenue, they're coming out around me and going down that area to get into the second lane. So there's definitely a problem along there, and it really needs to be addressed.
We will certainly look into it. Thank you. Next on the list is Mr. Winslow Wheeler. Good evening, sir.
Hi. Thank you for that chance to talk to you, all of you. As you probably know, I'm here to talk about the trash problem in this city. Any visitor to this city knows we have a trash problem. Too many people in this city seem to not think that we have a trash problem. I'm going to talk specifically about my neighborhood, South Prospect Street. It's a historic district where you would expect some particularly rigorous enforcement, but we don't have it. On our street, we have 52 residential structures. 45 of them are occupied. In 33 cases, there's some effort by the owner to move the trash at least to the side of the building, if not to the rear. Sometimes it's visible on the side, but at least there's an effort, sometimes ineffectual, but sometimes effective to get it to the side. That leaves 12 properties on our 3-block street that are perpetually storing their trash all week long, 7 days a week, in front of their buildings, on the facade of the building, prominently on the front porch. This is a problem that we've complained about literally for years. We've emailed you and city officials. We've filed report of concern. We've phoned. We've hand-delivered letters. We've buttonholed you. Nothing seems to get through to the individuals responsible for enforcing the trash code on our street. I distributed to you pictures randomly selected of our 12 dirty dozen, the gross violators of the trash code. We just don't seem to get through to the official responsible for enforcing the trash code, that we're sick of this. We'd like to see it fixed. And importantly, there's a lot of discussion when you're talking about trash about structures where some kind of problem forces it on the front of the building. It's landlocked because there's other block buildings. There's topography that makes it difficult. None of those conditions occur in these 12 properties on our street. Every now and then, 2 or 3 times a year, when I don't know what prompts action, but on a couple of properties, there's been some enforcement action. Those properties almost always revert. On the other 10 or so properties, as far as we can tell, nothing happens after years and years of complaining. Second point is that I spent 25, 30 years in the United States Senate writing, interpreting, and reading legislation. I don't think the proposal that you were given for your consideration last week was very artfully written, or maybe it was very artfully written. The way it's written, the 20 or so properties on our street that now have their trash out of public view would be within their rights to move their trash into public view, as long as it's on the side of the building, not in the right of way. I can imagine that all over the city. The proposal you had before you was a dramatic step backwards. And I was encouraged by the comments at the end of last week's meeting that maybe you want to see that thing rewritten. I don't think you should rewrite it. I think you should throw it away. the current trash code, as Councilmember Messner said last week, is fine. If you want flexibility for places not to enforce it, that code gives you all the flexibility you could possibly imagine. There are no restrictions on where your trash code officials don't want to enforce that code. What's lacking is your instruction to the code official responsible for this problem to enforce the code in a way that is not a problem, that does not show visitors to our city that we don't care, shows potential residential investors on our street, well, who wants to buy a property here? Look at all the trash in the street. If that's a problem, imagine what other problems are. Finally, this is not this city's most important problem. Crime and development are certainly far more important problems than trash in the streets. But this is an easy to solve problem. For years, it has not been solved, and if you can't solve the easy ones, it doesn't give us very much confidence that you can solve the hard ones. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Winslow. And we'll continue to work on that. We next have a public hearing. I'm going to have staff come and introduce the topic and make their usual statements.
Good evening. Oh, this is on. Is it on? This is case number ZM 2015-01. This is a proposed local conversion district overlay for 702 West Washington Street. That's in the west end at the corner of West Washington and Winter Street. The purpose of the local conversion overlay is to stimulate the adaptive reuse of traditional mixed-use buildings, typically buildings that have storefronts, that had a commercial use on the first floor and oftentimes residential above it. Allowing such uses to fit into these old buildings helps reestablish that historical mixed-use character to those buildings that we had in the late 19th and early 20th century in the city. The local conversion is also designed to be in giving zoning approval for a limited amount of commercial uses in this area, in a residentially zoned area. It's designed to be a quid pro quo. And so there's, in exchange for the approval of the zoning, property owner can enhance the property, should enhance the property to make it less of an impact to the neighborhood and be an improvement in the neighborhood. A little bit on the proposal before you tonight. This property was occupied traditionally by retail on the first floor and apartments on the second floor. The retail portion of the property lost its non-conforming status some time ago. The current application is for the local conversion is to retain the 4 existing apartment units in the building, and then for the first floor commercial space to be occupied by the following potential uses that were listed in his application. At the Planning Commission's public review meeting in October of this list, the applicant had indicated that he was most favorable to either a produce store or a general convenience store, but he had listed those 6 uses on his application. In terms of parking requirements, under the local conversion zoning overlay, the parking that's existent on the property as of now needs to be retained. And at this time, there's only 2 parking spaces. They're both accessible from West Washington Street. But there's on-street parking that's available on West Washington Street as well as Winter Street. In terms of the procedure for local conversion, we handle this like a typical rezoning process. As part of the zoning approval, mayor and council reserve the right to modify the proposed uses for this rezoning and can impose conditions on the rezoning. And at your meeting last week, you'd indicated there were some concerns about one of the uses on the list for ambulatory healthcare service, which was listed in the application for this property. That is totally at your discretion. You can change the uses, modify the uses for in the application as part of your approval of this rezoning, should you approve it. If it's approved by the mayor and council, then the applicant shall prepare a site plan, and that site plan will be reviewed and approved by the planning commission. At this time, I'd like to enter into the record the certificate of advertisement and the planning commission file by reference. This is an aerial shot of the property in question. The property is the yellow outline, and it sits on the northwest corner of West Washington and Winter Street. This picture is what the building looks, This picture is what the building looks like currently. And the majority of the existing storefront, or what's left of the storefront, generally is oriented towards Winter Street, but there is a section that is oriented towards West Washington, right by the do not enter sign. This is a modification of a rendering that was provided by the applicant in his application, and per the planning commission and the mayor council's request, the storefront where it says name and the two existing white doors, that was prepared by the applicant, and staff modified the storefront on West Washington Street to show the windows as a graphic representation. But I just wanted to point that out, that staff made that change to be consistent with what the planning commission's recommendation was and what you all wanted to see. The recommended site plan conditions for approval, this is what the planning commission had recommended, that both storefronts shall be rehabilitated to reintroduce a storefront window display design. However, the storefront along West Washington Street does not necessarily need to have a door. And then the second condition is no more than 50% of the area of the storefront shall be used for window graphics. The next steps, we're having our public hearing tonight, and then scheduled for new business on your agenda for this evening would be introduction of the rezoning. And then staff is proposing to bring this proposal back to you in a work session in January, and to discuss further and any changes you wish to make or how you would like to proceed. We would love to discuss it with you at that meeting. And then on the January 26th regular session, we would have this on for approval with modifications or a denial. And then if it's approved, the local conversion zoning takes effect 30 days later. And I will point out that in the introduction of the ordinance, it still has ambulatory healthcare service in there. So it could be introduced that way tonight, but certainly it can be changed or modified between the introduction and the approval. But I wanted to point that out in case there's any concerns. Mr. Crane is the applicant, and he is here this evening. So if you have any questions for myself or Mr. Crane, I'd be happy to take them.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions from the mayor and council?
And I don't have any specific questions. I will reiterate my opposition to the inclusion of the ambulatory care facility being included as one of the possible approved uses for the property. I think that is a stretch for returning to, the intent of the original use or commercial nature of the property.
Thanks. Any other comments from council? Would the applicant like to speak?
Not really. I am in agreement with all the requirements, and I thank you for considering my request for rezoning, and I'm glad that this application and this development is in line with the city plan for the local conversion, so we're all on the same page. It's interesting in Alex's presentation on the page, the proposal, If you could turn back. Yeah, you see, the possible uses are listed in the alphabetical order. But in fact, my priorities are quite reverse. My first priority is retail space there. So ambulatory healthcare services is probably either on the bottom or close to the bottom of my priority list. So it's not really hard for me to, drop that that use from the list. I only wanted to kind of understand is there any specific requirements that would, if all other applications don't work, would I be able to open the local, or rent it out to maybe use as a doctor's office or urgency care or anything like that? And if not, I just want to understand why. I'm not really opposed to that, I just want to understand why.
I will provide my specific concern.
Okay.
Is that, and that is the intensity in which we have experienced use of such properties. Let's take the one next door where I believe they receive patients, anywhere from 1 every 15 minutes to 4 every 15 minutes. Your property has 2 parking spaces. We have also seen properties convert to such use whereby individuals intensify use of the property, including sheltering and living facilities. I am not in support of converting or allowing the conversion of this property to be used in that manner in a neighborhood under the argument that what we are on its base doing is returning that property to some local community neighborhood commercial use within that serves the neighborhood. That type of inclusion in the list of things you mentioned, like a restaurant or a catering service, clearly is different in intensity and does not serve a purpose of providing a commercial use within the local neighborhood, no different than the other 2 items that, or examples that we cited at our work session last week, which were the View Street Diner, which clearly is reverting to its original commercial type use, serving the local neighborhood, or the Corsi's converted to, I guess, Charlie's or something to that effect now, which again goes back to the premise of its original type use. Otherwise, what we're talking about here is really a rezoning, of which I don't think that there is a majority of members of this council interested in using this type of process to circumvent what would otherwise be a regular rezoning process where you have to prove change in character of the neighborhood and or mistaken zoning, neither which I believe are in effect here.
I would agree. I
Understood.
think the purpose of the, this type of rezoning, the overlay district, is that it goes back to some kind of neighborhood use, like the old corner store, so that, as the councilman rightly pointed out, because you only have 2 parking spaces, that you would rely a lot on the foot traffic of people who live within a certain distance and could walk to patronize the commercial entity that belongs there. I think that's I think he outlined pretty
No,
well the
that's-
concerns
That's
of
clear
most of
enough.
us.
I appreciate that. Thank you for
Sir,
clarifying.
and if you would go through the West End, you would see on most corners, they in fact did have little grocery stores, because I was
True.
born and raised in the West End.
True.
And that's exactly what it was. If you look at every corner, you'll see a storefront that still has, but now they've been turned into either apartments or whatever else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and in fact, I was told by this gentleman right here who was
Yes.
here. that
Yes, he's from the
It used
West-
to be a R&G store.
Yes.
In late 50s or early
It
60s.
was.
And that's interesting. It's the first
Yeah,
time I
it
was
was a
told what exactly
retail.
it was.
Right, it was a
Yeah.
retail, and he's from the West End as
Right,
well.
right. He was just telling me
Yeah.
about his childhood there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no question about that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks.
Thank you for investing in our neighborhoods.
No one has signed up to speak at the hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who did not sign up who would like to speak on this topic? Okay. We will close this hearing, but we will leave the record open for 10 days for further correspondence. Thank you very much for that presentation.
Thank you.
Next is city administrator comments.
Well, this being our last meeting for 2015, I'd like to wish everybody happy holidays and happy new year, and to take a minute to thank mayor and council and department heads and city staff for all the hard work from the prior year. Thank you. And look forward to all that we can accomplish in the new year. And just for a matter of scheduling, just to remind everyone that for trash pickup, for refuse schedule, for both Christmas holiday and New Year's Day, the set out will be delayed one day. So if your normal set out is Thursday, you'll set out Friday for Saturday pickup. And that's all.
Great, thank you. Mayor and council comments. I'll start here on my right and we'll work our way down. Mr. Alshire.
A couple of comments. The first is, I know folks continue to be curious about the developments associated with MELP, and I will say again, as I said a month or so ago, the city continues to work on that issue. I think that we all realize that addressing such a large issue as that has been decades in the making of decline and degradation to the community, was never going to be an easy and smooth and swift task to accomplish the removal of, but I have faith that this body, I continue to have faith that this body and our very capable staff will accomplish that task within the next year. And want to thank folks for continuing on that effort, and especially the citizens for being patient to what is clearly an eyesore that we all want cleaned up. The second is, I have had the opportunity to meet with a number of downtown groups in the last year, including the Greater Hagerstown Downtown Task Force, the EDC, Urban Renewal Committee, the pop-up shop folks, the Downtown Alliance, the Main Street Movement, and I said this at our EDC meeting. We seem to have, a dozen different groups interested in improving the condition of downtown. The pop-up shop and Downtown Movement folks were clearly a good example of that with the efforts that they pulled off in the last week. And over the weekend. I want to thank those volunteers. But what I'll say to Mayor and Council and to everyone else is I think that we need to have some type of discussion with those groups in some type of more singular setting. Everybody seems to have pages that they'd like to be on, and I think we need to all be on a similar page. Otherwise, I fear that we will lose the good volunteer intentioned efforts that all of these folks bring to the table to share in that common goal. The third item, I wanted to address the trash complaint that we received, and I will reiterate, I read the emails that we got this week that said, the city's doing nothing, and I will say this, not getting the answer that you want and the time frame in which you would like it is not the same as getting an answer at all. And back in April, I sent some synopsis of things that I thought we could do as a city to address the trash issue. I look at some of the pictures and I say the same comments that I did in previous meetings on this topic. If you were to drive by my house any day of the week, as much as I try to responsibly hide, the big blue pen that we all got, you'd see it. It doesn't go in my rear yard. The dog would get into it. It doesn't go to my side yard. It goes in an area just to the corner. You know, and when I hear or am told that, you know, by what you're doing is doing nothing, and by doing nothing you don't care. You know, I look back 10 years ago buying my property, which happens to be a historic property, 1906, and it being 3 apartments, half in the city, half out of the city at that time. Hadn't been painted in 60 years. You could barely live in one of the floors. And the amount of investment that I've made as a citizen in that property, I have to say I take exception to a comment that I don't care about the city, because that's clearly not the case, and I truly do want to work with individuals, but I think that those individuals need to recognize that whatever solutions we come up with aren't going to be a one-size-fits-all. And so I would appreciate the opportunity for the council to discuss the issue, discuss some of the recommendations I put forward, and come up with some reasonable solutions that I think a majority of our citizens would embrace.
Thank you. Mr. Brubaker?
Yes, I want to thank the organizers, the pop-up shop operators, and all the people that came into town to shop and have a good time over the weekend. People I talked to, but all 3 of those groups were pretty pleased with the results. I haven't heard anything official, but or any statistics or any figures, but the reaction of people and the attitude of people was very good, and I was very pleased. And I agree with Kristen, we should do everything we can to keep up this momentum that we have. And that's all, except Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone.
Thank you. Mr. Metzner?
Just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and Happy Holidays.
Thanks. Mr. Munson?
Thank you, Mayor. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and Happy Holidays. A couple of things I want to talk about. First, at the top of this building, the steel is down now. The project is complete, and the clocks are working. And that has taken a lot of work, a lot of coordination, and a lot of effort. And I would like to thank Eric Dykey in our Public Works Department for getting that done, along with the contractors who unfortunately had to be from out of state, but they did a great job. And it's just a wonderful piece of work, and it looks a whole lot better than it did a year ago, a whole lot better. I'd like to mention something else too. I got an email today at 1:49, and it was what I would describe it as a very happy email, saying some important things about the city of Hagerstown and the employees of the city of Hagerstown. And if you'll bear with me for just a couple of minutes while I mention this. 2 of our Public Works employees, B.J. Zirkle and Gary Seavolt, assisted with CPR on an employee of Culligan Water. The employees were returning to the shop when B.J. Zirkle noticed someone lying on the shop floor of Culligan. Can you imagine? They were going down the street. He was looking over there, looking into the garage door, or some open door, located at the intersection of Memorial and Maryland. They could see an older man lying on the floor inside the building who appeared to be in considerable distress. They pulled, these 2 men, city employees, pulled into Culligan's to find the man not breathing, his color to be purple and blue, and his body stiff and motionless. Other Culligan employees were only feet away, but hadn't noticed him. B.J. Zirkle called 911 immediately, while Gary Seavolt administered CPR. Hagerstown Police Department and Emergency Services arrived shortly thereafter. The Hagerstown Police Department officer used a defibrillator until the ambulance arrived. Gary was able to get some circulation going and some color returned to the gentleman. Staff left the scene while emergency personnel continued to work on the man. I think this is a very outstanding, very positive event on behalf of these two employees of the city of Hagerstown. And there's still more, some of which is a little sadder. One is the city of Hagerstown has a policy that it is interested in all our employees being able to do CPR. And it turns out that B.J. Zirkle had just completed his CPR training on December the 9th, and Gary Seavolt on December the 2nd. And I would like to say thank you on behalf of Eric Dykey, who heads Public Works, and who insisted that this training be taken and completed by his entire staff. And it is because of that piece of good work on behalf of Eric that this man, who's incidentally, to the best of my knowledge, is named Mr. Stoner. And Mr. Stoner, as I understand, owns Culligan. Eric Dykey deserves a lot of credit for seeing that these men were adequately trained, that they could respond to this emergency. Can you imagine that? They're riding down the road, they happen to look in a door, and they see a man is dying in there. And they jump in and they save his life. My understanding is he went to the hospital, had a couple of stents put in, and it appears that he's going to be well. That's what I've heard. Now, there is a very sad side, and this needs to be mentioned, because you'll be reading about it in the newspaper. You might as well know it now. And on the sad side, Gary Seavolt called one of his bosses last night to say his mother passed away. Gary's mother passed away. We are not sure what happened, but believe it is to be unexpected. And to point out that Gary's brother, Brian, works for the water department. So I happen to think, and I'm sure I'm joined by everybody in this room, that this is just an incredible piece of work on behalf of a couple of employees of the city of Hagerstown, and we can really stand back and look at that, what they did, and be proud, incredibly proud of everything they accomplished. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for sharing that. Ms. Nye?
And again, that's why I say we listen to all employees who come to us. They have great suggestions, and it's a matter of opening the mind and listening to it. The downtown movement, again, very, very good. I wasn't there, but my husband and daughter was. I really think that we do need to have that discussion that Kristen talked about. We need to have it sooner than later, because I'm afraid that we're going to end up losing some of these entities unless we give them insight on what we would like to have. And I think that really needs to be done, and needs to be done soon. Also, again, trash. I'm so sick of trash, I don't know what to do. I called this morning and said, okay, on Church and on Jonathan, we've got the apartment building that is loaded with trash cans, as well as little grocery bags that you carry out that are all over the sidewalk, on the side and in the front. If we don't soon come to a conclusion on this trash, it's just going to be like melt. When is it going to happen? It started when we first came into office, and I don't know how much time before that with MELP, and how long have we been fighting the trash situation? Lou, you would be a better judge of it. Did you have it before we came into office, Kristen and I, the first time?
Not as bad.
Not as bad, but it certainly is bad. So, you know, at some point, there has to be a resolution to all of it, and I do agree with Lou, we've already got it on the books, why can't we enforce it? And enforcement is not there. It hasn't been there. And again, I keep saying why. Why is it I can see it but nobody else can see it? We have enough employees here that anything that is in their view, all they have to do is do contact. That's not impossible, and I don't know why it can't be done. Also, I need to have the okay to put this downstairs, and that would be for the banners, the applications, and I would have to set it on the front desk. I did hear from Tim. He was very active. He said, "I've just been busy." So it's just a matter of, I have to set it down, I have to put a display as far as, okay, this is what you want to do. So I needed to get permission. I had it last week,
Is
but
that
I
how we
forgot.
did it last year?
I think so, yeah,
Okay.
it was, and I just thought, well, I better go ahead and
Okay.
get that one out of the way. Now, okay, the trash. That was it, okay? Thanks, have a good holiday. Merry Christmas and whatever else, and thank you for your glasses, I forgot mine, but I will discuss that with the police department tomorrow again.
Thank you. I too want to thank all the folks involved in the pop-up shops. It seemed like a very successful event. Certainly was able to get some shopping done for the holidays, so that was nice. Also, I have to give props to the Maryland Symphony Orchestra and the Hagerstown Choral Arts, who had their Home for the Holidays concert, which is always pretty spectacular. And just what a great privilege it is that we have that level of talent here in our community. And of course, tonight, the streets are busy and the restaurants are full because Kenny Rogers is in town. So once again, demonstrating how important the Maryland Theater is to all of the activity that occurs downtown. Most of the activity, certainly. And finally, just wanted to thank our delegation for hosting us today at their meeting. I can't say that we accomplished a great deal, but I think it's good to continue the dialogue and to, for them to be able to hear what's important for us and to be able to continue that conversation in the future. We'll be looking forward to that. And I don't have any other comments. So with that, we'll move on to.
Mayor,
Yes,
could
sir.
I make one comment?
Please,
that I
go
forgot?
ahead.
I'm sorry, but I'd like to make this point as well. In recent weeks, there have been a whole series of break-ins in the north end of Hagerstown in particular, in Washington County. And last Friday, there was an attempted break-in on Hamilton Boulevard. An alert citizen was looking over the situation when it happened and contacted the police, and the police made an arrest. I think the police are to be congratulated. It turns out that these people had hit a number of places in Washington County as well, and the sheriff's department's working on it. And I just wanted to say thank you to the police for their great efforts. Unfortunately, apparently it was all related to drugs, like a lot of other things. But again, the police did a great piece of work. Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Mayor, may I also say thanks to the councilmen today at the delegation meeting. Everything went very calmly, and everything was right on point. And I think that a lot of note-taking was being done. So all I can say to you, because I usually remain very quiet at these functions, but my councilmen did an awesome job. So thank you very much. I just got it started and got it ended. That was it.
Thank you for that. So now we will consider the approval of the minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for the approval of minutes as presented for the mayor and council meetings held on November 3rd, November 10th, November 17th, and November 24th, all, of course, in 2015.
Second.
Have a motion made by Mr. Munson, seconded by Mr. Metzner. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Minutes are approved. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Metzner, seconded by Mr. Munson. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
All right.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. The consent agenda is approved. There is no unfinished business. Under new business, item A is the approval of a resolution, a lease agreement with MHI Customized Energy Solutions at the Frederick Street Substation.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move the mayor and city council approve the attached resolution and lease agreement with Customized Energy Solutions Limited for the purpose of the installation of an energy storage system located at the Hagerstown Light Department's Frederick Street Substation. The initial term of the agreement is 10 years and contains provisions for 2 5-year extensions if mutually agreed upon. Hagerstown Light Department shall receive $1,000 per month for the term of the agreement.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Brubaker, seconded by Mr. Metzner. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0, and the resolution is approved. Item B is the approval of a resolution for a tax exemption for MHI Customized Energy Solutions at the Frederick Street Substation.
Mayor, hereby move the mayor and city council approve the attached resolution, which will provide a limited tax exemption to the applicable city personal property tax due from the Customized Energy Solutions LTD in connection with the project for a period of 5 years.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Brubaker, seconded by Mr. Munson. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. Resolution is approved. Item C is the approval of a resolution, City of Hagerstown Settlement and Release Agreement resolving pending litigation over Eastern Boulevard road improvement fee, excuse me.
Mr. Mayor, I move the mayor and city council approve the attached resolution which authorizes the city of Hagerstown to accept the settlement and release agreement with Trilogy Enterprises, 1145 Omega Drive and Bergman Property to resolve the pending litigation over the Eastern Boulevard road improvement fee.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Alshire, seconded by Mr. Metzner. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to make this comment. This has not been an easy issue to deal with. However, it has been dealt with by this mayor and council. And because of what we're doing here tonight, I believe that we can anticipate in the not-too-distant future seeing some additional development on Eastern Boulevard, which of course brings us tax base.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0, and the resolution is approved. Item D is the acceptance of a dedication offer for Middleway Drive.
Mayor, I hereby move to accept the offer of dedication of the newly constructed Middleway Drive, recorded among the plat records of Washington County, Maryland as plats number 10345 and 10346. City shall commence maintenance of this street effective immediately since the developer has submitted the proper 1-year maintenance bond.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Brubaker, seconded by Mr. Metzner. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to make one clarification. At the Planning Commission meeting the other night, there had been, the Planning Commission had requested sidewalks on both sides of Middleway Drive, and we were assured by staff that was going to take place. I've double-checked, and even though it has not been constructed, when the land is graded for the tract on the south side, city engineer says the sidewalk will be installed, and it does appear on the site plan. It's illustrated on the back. So I just wanted to make clarification. It's on the south side, the edge of the paper.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0, and the offer is accepted. Item E is the approval to accept a grant from the Maryland Department of Health and Mental Hygiene.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move to authorize the city to accept a grant from the Maryland Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. The grant is $10,000 and has no cash match. By accepting this grant, we will expand the Recreation Division's health and fitness programs and develop a recreation program guide.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Munson, seconded by Mr. Metzner. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0, and the grant is accepted. Item F is the approval of noise ordinance exemption for fireworks at What's Next New Year's Eve Donut Drop.
Mr. Mayor, hereby move the mayor and council Approve the addition of fireworks to the What's Next New Year's Eve Donut Drop event for 2015, and the mayor and council's approval will exempt the event from the city of Hagerstown's noise ordinance under section 155-5 of the code of the city of Hagerstown.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Metzner, second by Mr. Munson. Any discussion?
Just bigger and better.
And it's top secret, so this didn't happen here tonight. They're
Good.
trying to make it a surprise, but, you know, government, what are you gonna do? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries and fireworks are approved. Item G, the approval of an application for FY 2017 program open space projects.
Mr. Mayor, hereby move for the mayor and council approval of an application in Washington County requesting FY 2017 open space development funding of improvement to the city's recreational facilities by priority as follows. Number 1, park play equipment, benches, and trash cans, $36,000. Number 2, 202 train exhibit pavilion amenities, $9,000. Number 3, Potterfield pool spray amenities and climbing wall, $22,500. Number 4, outdoor exercise equipment, $13,500. Number 5, replace White Coat deep end Potterfield pool at $45,000. I further move to request $100,000 in land acquisition funds for purchase of real property as part of the A&E Trail project.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Metzner, seconded by Mr. Brubaker. Any discussion?
I would only note that as it relates to the trail project, that project, I think we've had as many public meetings as one could conceivably have for citizens' input into that. So to hear tonight a citizen comment that somebody's opposed to it, I would only suggest that I can't even count how many public meetings we've had for input from citizens on this issue.
Good point, good point.
But I wanted to bring up that last amount. Did we specifically bring that up at the work session? Because I agree with it. I brought up that we should add more to our request.
We were just all thinking it.
And I see this as,
Staff got it through mental
yeah,
telepathy, I think.
I think this is more, and I appreciate that, and I second the motion, because I think this is what we need to do, and I think we're entirely justified in going that direction. It's an MML initiative to try to lock in at the statewide level the funds, the open space funds, and I think we should fight harder for a share of what's distributed within the county.
When I went back and looked at my notes from last year, that last line on there about the land acquisition was part of last year's request, but it didn't get approved. But I sensed last year that that was an important acquisition. It's the triangular piece at the end of the
Right.
project. So I wanted to make sure that it was in there, so I
Good
apologize,
staff
we
work.
didn't talk.
Right,
Surprise, we have good staff work.
Yeah.
Good job,
Thank you
Rodney.
very much.
you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would just like for it to be on the record that even though all of is important, that pavilion for those golf carts, I would still like to find a way to be able to get that pavilion. Because after riding over by there and looking at the golf carts that are there, it really is needed. I don't know what they have at the other golf course, but I think that it's just something that maybe somehow, I don't know how, being able to swing it, that perhaps we can get the wood and then go forward with having the construction done on it. But I just want it noted that I do feel that that's important.
I guess my only comment on that is they're golf carts we don't own.
I know
think
that,
was the
and I
sticking point.
realize that, but again, I don't know all the ramifications on golf carts that we don't own. So until I see all of it in front of my face, I still think that there should be an effort to do that.
Well, we can get more information about that.
And I would, Mr. Mayor, I would like to concur with her position, too.
Thank you. All right, the motion on the floor is on project open space project priorities. Motion made by Mr. Metzger, second by Mr. Brubaker. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries and the list is approved. Finally, item H, the introduction of an ordinance for the Crane Local Conversion District Overlay, ZM 2015-01.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move that the mayor and city council introduce an ordinance for a local conversion district overlay, including the two conditions endorsed by the planning commission on property located at 702 West Washington Street.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Brubaker, seconded by Mr. Metzner. Any discussion?
I would like to amend the motion to remove I believe it's from page 1 of the attachment, the ambulatory healthcare services as a listed permitted use to be included in this conversion district overlay request.
Which page is that?
I believe it is on page 1 of the attachment, under item number 2, is where I see it specific, and then in the findings of fact above it.
Gotcha.
Well, I concur with that, well, it needs,
And I have no problems as a second.
And I have no problem, because what comes after us could be a hole down the tubes for us if this
So
is approved
the
that
person
way.
making the motion has agreed to the amendment, as has the person who has seconded. So on the amended motion, deleting the words ambulatory healthcare services from page 1 under number 2. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0, and the introduction of the ordinance is approved. And with that, we will be adjourned. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Merry New Year.